You're failing because you're not working hard enough. That's just not true. It's because you're studying just to pass your exams rather than optimizing your workflow. So just do this. Get into a flow state and enjoy your work. Make a checklist of everything you need to study and track progress, and find a study method that uses active recall. That's it. I'm literally going to spend the next 10 minutes talking about that. So you can leave.
You're a beta male.
Or you can watch on to learn how you actually implement this. Now let's drill right into it. So as I mentioned, you need to get into your flow state and start to enjoy your work. You've probably seen these videos and thought, wow, studying just looks easy. But then you sit down and try the techniques, and super duper quickly your mind just starts to wander. And you start thinking of all the fun stuff you can do instead, or you just spend like 5 hours on TikTok wasting time like me. You start to feel super disappointed, and as a way to get back at yourself, you try to study straight through the night, and it never works. Now the reason for this is super simple. You lack enjoyment. The only way you're going to get through that silly algebra equation or that anatomical landmark is by actually enjoying what you do. The flow state is a state of mind where you're enjoying what you're doing and you're stimulating yourself in the best way. That sounds very weird. But basically you're doing a task that is mentally stimulating but doesn't cause you anxiety, and is relatively simple but doesn't make you bored. When you're in this state of mind, you start enjoying yourself a lot more, you're super focused, and you get a lot more done. It's because you're making progress in a task that actually has meaning. That's why you see these big study tubers just doing long live streams of them studying. They're not these superhumans, they've just managed to manifest and understand how to get into the flow state properly. They can study for a long time without getting tired. Studies show that high performance athletes and academics are able to enter the flow state for a long period of time. And more importantly, they can do it very, very easily. So these are the 4 rules you need to follow to hack your way into the flow state. 1. You need to get rid of distractions completely. And yes, that means throwing your phone completely out of the door. This stops you from interrupting the flow. Secondly, you need to stop trying to multitask. Focus on one module and one piece of content and get through that first. A river with one stream flows better than one that forks into multiple. The third tip is to have a clear goal and understanding of why you're doing this task in the first place. Don't think in the short term. Think about what you want to achieve and how doing this revision is going to help you get there. If you're just focusing on trying to study for that one exam, you're never going to be motivated. And finally, don't try to force it. I recommend you follow the 5-minute rule. This is basically the adapted 2-minute rule from Atomic Habits, a book you should really read. I'll put it here. Within this, you set a 5-minute timer and you start a bit of work. If by the end of the 5 minutes you no longer want to work and it really feels like a drag, you're allowed to just stop completely. You can leave it and try something completely different. Now, this sounds slightly counterintuitive and you're probably like, I'm just going to procrastinate. But a lot of the time, the hardest part of studying is starting. And if you can commit to something for about 5 minutes, you're more likely to stick to it in the long run for like an hour or 2. If you think these tips are good, make sure you stick to the end because the best are yet to come. Now, the next step in your plan is to make a checklist of everything you need to study and start tracking your progress. Now, this will do wonders for you to stay a lot more motivated, and it will make your studying way more intentional. Using to-do lists and checklists are surefire ways to boost your productivity and allow you to study 10 times harder. And it's something you can instantly do with just a piece of paper and a pen. The reason for this is simple: dopamine. Dopamine is a lovely little neurotransmitter that is made in that giga brain of yours that helps regulate motivation and acts as a reward center. It's the chemical that all social media tries to milk to keep you on their platforms, and is the reason why you spend 3 hours on finance YouTube, even though you just want to find out why Luna crashed last week and you lost all your money, and why crypto is just pain. But anyway, back to the point. Checklists act as a great way to stimulate dopamine release. This is because by setting out your daily tasks for the day in a notebook and crossing them out physically, once completed, you release a small little burst of dopamine. Just enough for you to feel a bit of pleasure and make you want to chase that feeling again and again. So in a way, you're reprogramming and hacking your brain to try and enjoy studying more. Because every time you complete work, you associate it with a nice dopamine release after. You can also build on this by rewarding yourself for completing pieces of work to simulate dopamine as well. Of course, this only works if you get the work done, which can be hard to do. So make sure you don't put vague tasks like finish this lecture or revise this entire module. Make them specific and realistic, or else you'll never get them done. To find out what to put on your to-do list and your checklist, you can start off by making a database. In here, you'll put all of the content that you're going to be tested on throughout the year and all the things that you want to study for. You can use things like Microsoft Excel or something like Notion, which is what I personally use. Here, you can have a master document and use it as your source material for your checklist. You can make this using your course outline, your specification, or anything that has a bit of information on the content you get tested on. For example, if I'm going to study something tomorrow, I'd go into my big database, pick out 2 or 3 lectures, write them in my notebook, and make sure that I complete them the next day. If you do this enough time, you'll build up good habits and you'll stop procrastinating, because a lot of the time you waste time trying to pick what you're going to do in the day. Make studying easy, have your to-do list done the day before, and have everything in place once you get up so you can start work instantly. Now finally, you need to find a study method that allows you to use active recall. That's it. Done. This is the best tip of the day. Look, I get that everyone works differently and need to find the revision method that works best for you. But honestly, that's just a load of rubbish that is spewed so everyone feels good about just writing notes over and over. If you, and yes, I'm speaking directly to you, are still rewriting and making notes as your revision and rereading them for hours thinking you're going to learn something, you are, say it with me, wasting your time. Like, nothing more to be said. Just stop it, because the amount of content you actually retain is minuscule, and I'll quickly explain why. When you reread things over and over, your brain starts to recognize the content that you're looking at and tricks you into thinking you know them. This is why you've probably read a textbook like 10 times or gone over a lecture a million times, and then you get questioned on it in your exam and you're like, I don't know what to say. You think you know the module so well, but your mind just goes blank. The reason for this is because your brain is able to recognize the information, but is unable to actively recall it in the exam. Recalling something means that you're actively searching for the information in your head and trying to apply it to the question. In doing so, it allows you to write down an answer, which is of course the single most important thing in your exam. The exam's not testing your ability to say, oh, I read that before. To be honest, this video is just telling you why your brain is an absolute op and how you need to hack it. So the question is, how do we use active recall to improve our test results and do better in exams? And you're not going to like what I say, but simply put, you need to make everything a test. Now, before you click off the video and start crying that I'm telling you to test yourself more, hear me out. Simply put, by testing yourself, you're eliminating any possibility of your brain, aka your greatest enemy, from just recognizing things. It forces you to actively think, write down answers, and strengthens that neural pathway so you do well in your exams. Now, you can test yourself with past papers, question banks, or you can just turn your notes into questions by using what, how, and why questions. Whenever you learn something new, instead of just writing it into notes and just paraphrase what you've been taught, actively turn them into a question you can answer. For example, if a lecture says the most common cause of lung cancer is smoking, don't just write that down again in your notes, turn it into a question. What is the most common cause of lung cancer? And then test yourself periodically to ensure you remember it. This is another thing called spaced repetition, and I'll link it down below in the description. And remember, you're not defined by the grades that you had in the past or the work you've done before. You're defined by the effort you put in and the attitude you bring when you're trying to improve. So stay motivated, and if this video helped you, make sure you smash the like button, destroy the subscribe button, and check out these videos over here. I've personally picked them out because I think they'll really help you. Thanks for watching.